Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
Coming up on this episode of Off 90, hundreds of eagles call the Mississippi River Valley home. Come with us to Wabasha, where we visit a place dedicated to the welfare of these magnificent creatures. You won't find this house on the map for the Parade of Homes. Take a tour of a home in Collegeville, Minnesota, built with some unique materials. There's more to jewelry than meets the eye. Meet some jewelry makers from Lanesboro who have stories to tell through their jewelry. It's all just ahead on this episode of Off 90. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Off 90. Eagles are a national emblem, chosen because of their strength and grace. The National Eagle Center in Wabasha is dedicated to the welfare of these majestic creatures. Come with us to the National Eagle Center as we take a close look at these icons of freedom.
Between 1968 and 1872, from Wabasha here, all the way down the river to Rock Island, Illinois, a distance of 261 miles, there was only one nesting pair of bald eagles left. That same stretch of river that we now call the Upper Mississippi National Wildlife and Fish Refuge, today has over 313 nesting pairs of bald eagles.
Now here, this is Angel, you guys. She's an adult female bald eagle.
The National Eagle Center's mission is to educate about eagles and the Mississippi River habitat.
When eagles were rare and endangered, this area of the Upper Mississippi was one place in the winter where you could come and be fairly certain that you would see live eagles in the wild. I'm Rolf Thompson. I'm the Executive Director of the National Eagle Center here in Wabasha, Minnesota. People in Wabasha realized that people were coming here to see this phenomenon because they couldn't see eagles anywhere else. And so a group got an idea to build a viewing platform right here on the river, and then volunteers started hanging out, answering questions on Saturday afternoons. One thing led to another, and the town realized that this was an asset that they could develop.
We have open water right outside our windows here all winter long. It's because of Lake Pepin. Lake Pepin is just a big old widening of the Mississippi River that then comes down to a narrower channel. And because of that large volume of water trying to pour through that narrower channel, that keeps a 5-mile stretch of faster moving water out here that doesn't freeze over. So it's a great place for eagles to migrate to and find food.
I'm Bill Dunn. I'm a volunteer at the National Eagle Center in Wabasha. I live in Reed's Landing, and Reed's Landing is one of the best places in the world, probably, to watch bald eagles. Yesterday I counted about 8 o'clock in the morning, and in about a mile stretch along the river, I counted 308 eagles.
We do house 5 permanently injured eagles. These are all birds that have been in the wild. They've had some sort of problem and they're not able to live on their own any longer.
The bird directly behind me is Harriet. She is our most famous eagle here in Wabasha, Minnesota. Harriet has been on many national TV shows. She's also been featured on the Minnesota Support Our Troops license plates. The bald eagle belongs to a family of eagles called the fish or sea eagle family. They are primarily found near aquatic environments. They have a big beak. The big beak is used to rip apart fish. The golden eagle has a much smaller beak, a much smaller tool, because it's not feeding on fish, it's feeding on rabbits and squirrels that it can rip apart very easily apart with a smaller tool. All the crushing, all the killing power for a raptor or a bird of prey is in the talons. That's how they crush and kill the prey. In fact, each one of their talons, and they have 3 that face forward and 1 that faces back, each one of them can exert over 400 pounds per square inch of crushing pressure in each one of the talons.
Could an eagle carry a 1-year-old? No. You guys may have seen the video, the recent YouTube video of the golden eagle carrying away the small child. That's fake. A bird angel size, so she weighs 10.5 pounds. She can only carry about 2.5 to 3 pounds.
We say that eagles have a strong nest site fidelity, meaning they keep coming back to the same nest site year after year. And when they come back that nest, they're going to be working on the nest by adding material. If it's the first year, it's going to be 4, 5, 6 feet in diameter the first year and 1 to 2 feet high. But every year they come back in February, they're going to be adding another 1 to 2 feet of new material every single year. So it's not uncommon then for them to be maybe 600, 800 pounds in weight. By putting branches in there year after year, that's basically telling the other partner that I'm a good provider, I can find nice sticks, and we can help work on this nest together, and that shows that there's a connection there.
Most likely what is happening, the male is gathering all of these awesome pieces of branches, bringing them up to the nest, putting them how he wants them, and she will rearrange everything.
DDT was introduced right after World War II to get rid of mosquitoes. By the time it got to the female eagle, what it did for her was affect her ability to process calcium. Because of that calcium interference, when she went to lay her eggs, they were often deformed or so thin and deformed that when she went to incubate her own eggs, she was crushing them under her own weight. And that's when we came so close to losing the eagle. One of the main things that rehab facilities see is lead poisoning. We unfortunately see an increased number of eagles coming in right after the deer hunting season. Hunter shoots a deer, throws the gut piles out for the predators to feed upon, thinks they're doing a favor, but the eagle sees that, and we all know that eagles have eagle eyes. If they see that and feed on that, any fragments of lead in there can kill an eagle in just 4 to 5 days. I think we've been attracted to eagles for eons, literally as long as humans and eagles have been around seeing each other. We've been attracted to them. I think because they're such a, imagine seeing a bald eagle with that beautiful white head and tail against a beautiful blue sky. I mean, that's an image that you just never forget. It's such a high-flying bird. It has such stern-looking look to it that it just seems like it's going to be tough and defend our country. It just has that look to it. But it also has such beautiful eyes that you can just look into. We've brought the eagle back from the brink of extinction, and we're celebrating that. But at the same time, we also have to realize there's so many other creatures that still need our attention and respect. They may not be our national emblem. They may not be quite as good looking as an eagle, But you know what? They still deserve their place in that environment. We need to work to protect those creatures as well. The eagle can't survive in that environment out there by itself. There's a whole food chain. There's a whole web of life out there that it's incorporated into.
The College of St. Benedict and St. John's University have a mission to bring art to Minnesota, and this particular piece is hard to miss. Lean on Me is a massive 3-story sculpture, and it's made entirely out of sticks. It's a work of art that deserves exploration.
Lean on Me plays that line between playful and a little bit eerie. It looks like the wind is kind of moving the whole structure a little bit, and it's definitely leaning.
I can't believe that somebody made it, but it also feels like it could have just grown there on its own.
It brings out that sense of exploration within us. We want to look around every corner and just explore that area.
Well, it's a sculpture that consists of 5 structures made out of sticks, and it's only out of sticks. There's no other material. Some of the vertical ones are planted into the ground to hold up horizontal and diagonal ones. It rises about 20, 30 feet, and it looks like maybe sort of an old sort of church or chapel kind of grouping of buildings. Patrick Doherty is an internationally recognized artist known for making these large-scale, monumental stick sculptures all around the world. And he came to visit the campus, and he said that at that time he was struck by, just in general, the architecture around St. John's and St. Ben's, especially the chapels and churches. And he actually really liked that idea of something that's just beckoning you to kind of go and explore, go out into the grasslands or into the woods, and that it's also kind of a church or a chapel. He doesn't make them by himself. He needs volunteers, a crew of assistants. So we recruited like crazy. We were putting posters up around campus and sending emails and bringing our students from our classes to the site as part of their classes. And by the end, we had over 300 volunteers from all of those areas. My sense is that that may have been as many volunteers as he's ever had help with one of these sculptures. The actual construction of the project took 3 weeks, and it was solid that 3 weeks, from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. every day. By the end of the day, he and all the volunteers are exhausted. We've been out in the sun, out in whatever the conditions were.
It was physically demanding as much as it was mentally demanding. People just kind of naturally have a sense of how to work with sticks, and once you get the style of what he's working with, it seems kind of natural to do the process. All the wood came from St. John's Arboretum, so we harvested all on site. The willow, it replenished itself very quickly, and so we wanted to get it from as close as we could. And the ironwood, we actually wanted to thin out so that different trees could take root in that area. So we were helping them fulfill their mission, but they were helping us fulfill ours. It took a long time to gather all those materials. We had over 10 loads in a tractor trailer that we weighed one of them that was 3,300 pounds. So there's over 15 tons of material in that structure. It was dusty, it was dirty, we were sweating, it was hot and humid out. And at the end of those 2 days, we thought, the hard part's over, thank God. We can go take it easy and work with the sticks on site now. And then that's when I realized that the hard part was just beginning. We're bending sticks, and oftentimes these are ironwood that are 3 inches around, and trying to bend those through. So it was hard. It's called stick work for a reason. To give it the leaning structure, we would tie the ironwood to the scaffolding with twine. So we end up using quite a bit of twine just to give it that leaning look. And then once we put in lots of other ironwood and more willow, the tension held it together and we removed all the twine. It's a very solid structure. I'm pretty confident you could drive a truck into it and it would not move. The only thing that'll take it down is time.
The reaction from the surrounding community started right from the beginning. I mean, people were driving by and, leaning out of their cars and yelling out, what are you doing? And my favorite was someone yelled out of their car and said, what does it mean? The appreciative audiences come from all backgrounds, all ages, but the ones that at least I think are most appreciative are the little kids. And you would hear them yelling out about, this being the home of Dr. Seuss, the Lorax, where the wild things are. Some of them got really into fairy tales they connected it to, and they all had questions about how did we do it and what kind of wood was it. So I felt like they were learning about issues of sustainability and art in this indirect way. It didn't really hit me till I could step back at the very end, just how big this was, not only as a large sculpture, but that we were getting people involved in the arts through this that otherwise maybe never would have stopped and paused to look at. To me, the significance of Lean on Me is evidence of the way that we maybe aren't as far from the process of building beauty out of materials around us as we might think we are. We can go and just make these amazing, beautiful things, and I think it inspires everyone who sees it to think of what they might make around them.
There's an artist-owned jewelry store in Lanesboro that takes its name from a Norwegian folktale. In the story, a fish becomes landlocked in a fjord. Through a series of enchanted adventures, the fish gains the power of speech and becomes king of the pond. The artists at Crown Trout Jewelry take their inspiration from this and other tales of old.
It's a very unusual alchemy. You get to use all the elements, earth, air, fire, water, people. It's wonderful. I'm Liz Buchheit, and I am a jewelry designer and goldsmith and a filigree artist.
I'm Michael Seiler, and I'm a goldsmith, jewelry designer, and storyteller.
And we run Crown Trout Jewelers.
We are full on as far as making everything by hand, every single part of it, whether it's stone cutting to finishing to fabricating. Our hands touch everything.
We are sort of old school in the way that we do all of our work in-house. We do it all here very much like an old guild school.
There's so much of jewelry that's made overseas, and it's made by machines, designed and engineered on computers. And the only thing that the hands really touch on other jewelry is basically the polishing aspect of it, maybe a little stone setting.
The mission of Crown Trout is actually to make people aware of our art form, which is goldsmithing and silversmithing, and to give them a good background on how things are made, what makes us different from other jewelers, and hopefully make them better consumers when they are out buying jewelry. I come from a Scandinavian background, and I do a lot of traditional type jewelry, which is, if you know a little bit about Norwegian or Swedish jewelry, there are very specific guidelines and techniques for making the type of jewelry that go with their traditional bunads or folk costumes. I kind of take that and give it a little different twist and kind of lift it out of its traditional origins and make it a little bit more contemporary and modern day. Something that I've always found really inspiring is some of the creation stories about how certain gods or goddesses would sing things into existence. They would have a certain song to sing flowers or clouds or the moon or rain into existence. And those are the types of themes that are running through my head as I do the filigree jewelry, because it, again, is drawing with wire. And even though I do draw like basic design first, I kind of get an idea of what it is in my mind. I actually allow myself to be swept along by that sort of inner dialogue or inner narrative while I'm curling the wire and soldering the wire and rearranging it. I might end up with something completely different than what I originally had intended. And lots of people call that happy accidents, but I just call it sort of riding that wave.
My specialty is working with different types of stone, everything from dinosaur bone to different types of jaspers all over the world. And I hand cut all the pieces and design my pieces around a story that I've written. As Mars glowed in the night sky, the suspended moon made the field mouse hunger for more than flowering prairies had to offer. Summoning the wind to her feet, she flew to the milky moon, only to realize that the moon was no more made of cheese than the earth was a glass marble. Mistakes can be made, but no one can argue the brilliance and power of a cheesy dream. It's somewhat time-consuming to be able to write a story about each piece, but I think that jewelry really should be more than just an adornment. It should be something that speaks to the soul. I start with a rough piece of jasper, and then I cut that and I form it. After I have it, cut down, polished, I then make the metal bezel that goes around it and do all the metal work. And then at the end, set the stone.
Jewelry is very, very special to me because while a painter might have canvas as a palette, I look at the human body as the palette. And I feel, especially the art that we do is at Crown Trout Jewelers, it is really, really interesting in the way that we are carried along through a person's life. When someone purchases a piece of jewelry or they buy one of our pieces, they are a portable art form. By the time we're all is said and done, I'm always amazed at that, and I never get tired of that concept. I won first place in the bridal category for the Women's Jewelry Association's Diva Award competition for a bridal tiara. This is the award-winning tiara from the Dazzle Diva competition in New York City. This piece is entitled Autumnal Tiara, and it is made from hand-forged sterling silver, some beautiful black and white pearls, and these very exquisite hand-cut druzy quartz leaves. Each one of these is a little bit different. These were all pieces that I collected over the years of going to gem shows and finally came together in one piece. It was a great accolade, especially to be known for tiaras in Lanesboro, Minnesota, representing Minnesota in New York City. It was awesome. We've been teaching for about 12 years combined, and we really, not every school might necessarily have a jewelry program, but there's so many aspects of jewelry making that, again, what is wonderful, I think, is that you get to use all sorts of media. That's drawing, it's painting, it's building, it's sculpting, it's working with tools, it's working with paint, brushes, all that sort of stuff.
Where I see jewelry making going now as an industry, it's going more the way of computers and machines carving things out. I think the one thing that Liz and myself are trying to preserve is learning how to do all those things that computers and machines do for us and be able to do them by hand and become very adept at being able to do everything from stone setting to wax carving, all the traditional things that have to be done to make a piece. And I think that's the most important part.
That's all for this episode. Thanks for watching. See you next time, Off 90.
Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.